Good morning, and thank you for joining us for the week 2 of the 2023 Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference Weekly Football Video Conference. I am Patricia Porter Mayfield, Associate Commissioner for the MEAC, and I will serve as the moderator and host of today's question and answer session. Before we begin, I would like to go over today's procedures. The conference will begin with the MEAC notes featuring conference highlights, upcoming events, players of the week, and weekly accolades. Afterwards, we will ask questions of each head coach and then take questions from the media. To ask a question, use the raise hand function. Remain muted until you're introduced. At this time, the MEAC notes will be brought to you by Jeff Cunningham. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Patricia. Morgan State had the highlight of week 1 of the 2023 MEAC football season this past Saturday, defeating number 16 Richmond 17-10 at Robins Stadium behind a Bears defense that forced 4 turnovers. The Bears snapped the Spiders' 17-year home opener winning streak, and it was Morgan State's first win over a ranked opponent since 2018. In other MEAC football action this past weekend, North Carolina Central defeated Winston-Salem State 47-21 behind 4 touchdowns from reigning MEAC Offensive Player of the Year Davius Richard, while Delaware State fell 22-11 to Bowie State in head coach Lee Hull's debut. Norfolk State fell 33-24 to Virginia State. Howard fell 33-23 to Eastern Michigan, and Charlotte defeated South Carolina State 24-3. In MEAC volleyball, Coppin State was a perfect 3-0 this past weekend, winning matches over UNC Greensboro, Morehead State, and Marshall. The Eagles are a MEAC best 5-1 on the young season. Morgan State picked up its first 2 wins of the season over Dartmouth and Fairleigh Dickinson, while Delaware State defeated Syracuse in straight sets. Howard notched a 5-set win over Winthrop. Maryland Eastern Shore defeated Central Connecticut State, and North Carolina Central picked up its first win of the season with a 5-set defeat of Gardner-Webb. Visit MEACsports.com later today for the football and volleyball players of the week. In cross country, Howard University opened its season this past weekend at the Mount 5K Duels. The women came in second, while the men finished 4th in the team standings. Jocelyn Crosby led the Bison with a 9th place finish, completing the course in 19 minutes, 28 seconds. For more information on the MEAC and its 14 sponsored sports, please visit our website at www.meacsports.com. You can also follow the MEAC on social media at MEAC Sports on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. And be sure to subscribe to the MEAC Digital Network on YouTube. Patricia?
Thanks, Jeff. We will now start with our interview questions. We start this morning with Howard head coach Larry Scott. Good morning, Coach Scott.
Good morning. How's everybody doing?
We're doing well, Coach. How about yourself?
Doing good. Doing good.
Well, Coach, last week, not the finish you would have liked, but nonetheless, a pretty competitive outing for the Bison. Can you talk about that matchup against Eastern Michigan?
Oh, yeah. It was, just like you said, it was a tale of 2 halves, right? We kind of shot ourselves in the foot, giving up 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns and having a safety. And ultimately, it became the difference in the game. And every other stat across the board, we outplayed them. We outrushed them, outpassed them, and all those things. We just couldn't overcome the early mistakes in the kicking game. So we believe if we get that cleaned up, we'll be competitive the rest of the year. So that's kind of how we came out of that one. It stung, but we moved on.
Well, Coach, to give us a little bit more insight, as you mentioned, it was a tale of 2 halves. After the second half, then you guys were able to come out and we saw some offensive runs. Then we also saw some defensive stops. Can you talk about what changes were made in that second half?
Oh, no changes were made. I mean, we didn't do anything. They didn't do anything from a schematical standpoint, especially for them offensively that, gave us any issues. Offensively, we had to make a few adjustments to some different fronts and pressures that we hadn't seen from them, obviously, in game 1. You kind of go into it, you don't know what you're going to get, and they came out in a whole new scheme from a front standpoint. So we had to make some minor adjustments there, found some runs, and actually ended up rushing the football for 200 yards. So made those adjustments. Kids believe they came out, and they played to our standard. I think we got some of the nervousness and the jitters out and those type of things. We had some young guys that was first-time punter. being in a backed up situation and kind of, dropping the ball and getting the safety. And then they turn around, you kick off after the safety, and they return it right there. So it's a 9-point swing within a matter of minutes. And so it's kind of like one of those deals where, okay, how are we going to respond? And so there were so many learning lessons, too, that came from that half of football. And we went in at halftime, made some adjustments, came back out, and the guys came out and played to what we believe we can truly be. So we can be what we were in the second half. We think we're going to give ourselves a heck of a chance to be very competitive all year.
Good. Well, Coach, I'm going to take your earlier lead. Looking ahead, this week you take on Morehouse College. Can you talk about that outcome or the matchup?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we played them last year, and they really played us really tough in the first half last year. And we came out in the second half and kind of scored 31 unanswered. But their scheme, on defense, gives you a couple of issues that you got to make sure that you're aware of and have a good plan for. It's two really tradition-rich universities and programs coming together here in DC. So it's going to be an exciting time. I think the environment will be fun. It'll be electric. It'll be a lot of energy. It's going to be fun to get done. I want to get, we want to get on a winning streak. And that's our thing. We want to find a ball game, find a chance to win. So it really doesn't matter who we're playing. It's just about our next opponent. But for our fan base, for the two universities, it's also going to be big for them in that way.
Well, thanks, Coach Scott. That concludes all of my questions this morning. But if you'll now hold for questions from the media. As a reminder, please use the raise hand feature and remain muted until you're introduced.
Our first question for Coach Scott this morning comes from James Hill.
Morning, Coach. I hope you and everybody at Howard are well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, James?
Pretty good. Talk a little bit about your three-headed monster, if you will. Williams back there throwing it around. Mr. James, the son of a legend. He can run downhill. And then E is out there and he can catch the ball. Just talk a little bit about those three pieces you have.
Oh, yeah. We're excited about the guys that we have. Our skill positions are pretty heavy, and we find ways to create, opportunities for each and every one of them to, have their skill set come alive for us. So, we try to make sure that we're balanced. I mean, I think we had over 9 guys have receptions. A lot of guys have a lot of carries. So we get everybody involved, and they understand that no matter how big or how small your role is, it's critical to our success on offense. And the more balanced that we can be and use those weapons behooves us. So, we're excited. I think Quentin had a solid day. Big thing is we didn't turn over the ball. We kept the ball out, kept the ball out of danger. And we had some guys make some plays, some explosive plays for us on the perimeter. So, and our backs, we have, 3 of those guys that we feel good about being in the game at any time that could, break a game open for us at any moment. So, truly excited about the skill that we have.
Coach, you've been building a program. Last year, you were able to get to the top, so to speak, a share of the MEAC crown. But just talk a little bit about moving forward. It's Morehouse and Howard, a lot of pageantry, a lot of tradition. You alluded to it. And this is a game that HBCU nation and fans and followers are really excited about.
Yeah, we are too. Anytime you get a chance to come back home, we don't get a chance to play at home very often. And so to have a brand like Morehouse come in, they have a lot of alum in the area that I'm sure excited about, coming in and watch their team and supporting them. And then this will be the first time we play at home this year and give our fan base and our students and something to get really excited about. And it's going to be a night game. We don't play very often at night in DC. We have brand new lights and all those things. So it'll be fun. It'll be an electric environment. And we're excited to get back out on the grass and have an opportunity to play there.
Thank you, Coach. Have a blessed week.
You too, James. Thank you.
Our next question is from Mason Smith.
Good morning, Coach. Again, it was not the result you wanted against Eastern Michigan, but there were a lot of positives to take away. When it comes to Quentin Williams' play in the offensive line, you talked about, you couldn't overcome the early mistakes in the first quarter, really the first half. What goes into making a better start for your team as you get ready to take on Morehouse?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question. We talked about starting fast, right? No matter what position we're in, whether we're playing defense first or playing offense first. And our mistakes came in the kicking game and special teams. So, and that is very much so a team thing. That's not offense. It's not defense. That is that is a time that both offensive players and defensive players come together and play side by side. And so we got to definitely shore that up. And we just couldn't overcome. I mean, I don't think in football, period, if you give up 2 kickoff returns, and a safety and spot a team 16 points, that you're going to give yourself a chance to win. So right out of the rip, we made it hard on ourselves right from the very beginning to overcome. But the true character of people, the true character of a team is how you're going to respond to that. And our young men responded very well to it. They fought back, climbed themselves right back into a one-possession game with, 4 minutes left in the third quarter. It was a 30-23 game, one-score game. We fought our way back into it. That speaks to the resilience of this team and the young men, and they believe in the fact that they know that if you put the ball down, we can play with anybody. If you put it down and we don't make mistakes that ultimately, beat ourselves. So once we get those things cleaned up and those type of things in the kicking game, I think we'll give ourselves a heck of a chance to be competitive, like I said earlier.
I think it's, a great point. I know you and your coaching staff are very aware of how valuable special teams is. But when it comes to re-emphasizing that and making sure it's cleaner this week, what goes into an effective special teams unit to make sure it doesn't lose you games, even if it doesn't always win you games?
A lot. I mean, a lot goes into that, right? We're still, you're still searching to make sure you got the right personnel in the right spots and all those type of things. So there's a lot of that goes into making sure you shore that up. And just the overall attention to detail that needs to go into that, the strain, the understanding that it's a one and done type mentality. You don't get a chance to recorrect that one snap. And so you have to make sure that you go out, you strain, you take care of your job, you're accountable, you play hard, you finish. So just a re-emphasis and recentering of the focus on that, and showing up some things from a personnel standpoint helps with that as well. So a couple things, and we'll go into that. We went right to work on that right away.
Thank you, Coach.
Our next question comes from Nate Henry Jr.
Good morning, Coach. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, Nate. How you doing?
Great. Several of my questions have already been answered. However, I'd like you to speak to Casey Hawthorne and the value of Casey and what he brings to the team.
Yeah, Casey is a very versatile player, right? He can play as a tailback, he can play as a quarterback, he can play as a wide receiver, and I think he rushed for a touchdown and had a receiving touchdown as well. So his versatility obviously brings a lot to our offense, and we can move him around and do a lot of different things with him. So what he brings is kind of invaluable for us right now, and has been for the past 2 seasons. And he's an explosive, talented young man that is really grown and matured here over the last 2 or 3 years, and really is a special talent for us.
Okay, appreciate you. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
No more questions for Coach Scott.
Thanks for joining us this morning, Coach Scott. Best of luck to you and the team this week.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a good day, guys.
You as well. Howard will host Morehouse on Saturday, September 9th. That game kicks off at Green Stadium in Washington, D.C. The game will be played at 7 p.m. and will be broadcasted on ESPN+. Our next interview is with North Carolina Central head coach Trey Oliver. Good morning, Coach Oliver.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. How you doing this morning?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm well.
Well, Coach, convincing victory last week as you took on the Winston-Salem State Rams. Talk about the team's performance during the home opening victory.
It was a great day for football. Beautiful day outside, and the place was packed. You had a big rivalry game like that, and I thought our guys played well early in the first half. Kind of got out on to a 37-0 lead in the first half, and wanted to play some backups, some down the line guys, and I wasn't pleased how we finished the game. We expect those guys to, play at a certain level, but it was really good to get a lot of guys playing time and rest some of our starters. Defensively, kind of implementing a new scheme this year. So I thought that the guys did a really good job as far as missed assignments and shoring up our fits and things of that nature. But we had way too many missed tackles, and you're gonna have those struggles early on in the season. But I thought our guys flew around. We're fast defensively and very athletic. So I was pleased to see the effort that we played with there. Offensively, I thought we moved the football pretty well on the ground, especially, and Pee Wee made some good decisions, Davius. But we got to make more explosive plays with our receivers. I wasn't pleased with that. We only have 2 explosive plays. So we've got a lot of stuff to improve on. Our kicking game, we missed a point after and kicked a ball out of bounds. So some things we got to shore up in the kicking game and on both sides. But overall, it's good, to come out with the win.
Well, Coach, we've talked about offense, we've talked about defense. We dabbled a little bit into special teams play, but last week special teams play was key. And
Right.
you also were able to get a punt return for a touchdown by Brandon Cornington. How important is this unit to the team's overall success?
It's just as important as offense and defense. We talk about field position and setting up scores. And when you have opportunity to put one in the box and score on special teams, that's great. But Coach Pete Bennett, our special teams coordinator, does a really good job, and we spend a whole lot of time with our kicking game. So we try to take advantage of stuff that we see on film. And, when you have playmakers like Brandon Codrington out there, that makes life a lot easier. But, you see it's a team effort. Guys were out there throwing blocks. We didn't have any penalties, with that. It could have been some blocks in the back, but it was good to see guys execute.
Well, this week you have a short travel trip to some familiar territories as you take on North Carolina A&T. The Aggies have a new head coach, and they juggled some rookie quarterbacks last week as they were defeated by UAB. What's the preparation and game plan heading to this matchup?
As far as like the plays that we're going to be calling?
I would love for you to tell me the plays that you're going to call it, but I think that's going to be one of those things you're going to hold back a little bit. But just give me your overall outlook as to what you see in preparation for this game.
They're a very physical ball club. Obviously, this is our biggest rivalry, and they have a great coaching staff over there. We're not gonna change our preparation. We do what we do, and we just have to be locked in and thermostat mentality. Can't get too high, can't get too low. When good things or bad things happen. So there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. There's going to be some adversity that we have to fight through. And like you said, we do have to go back to Greensboro. Since I've been here, we haven't had them here in Durham yet. The 2020 season got canceled because of COVID. And then last year they moved the game to Charlotte. So this is, I guess, 5 years in a row we've been in Greensboro somewhere else. But we're excited about it. I know our fans are going to come out and pack the place out. And it's going to be a hard-fought game. I can't wait.
Well, thanks, Coach Oliver. That concludes my questions this morning. We will now take questions from the media. As a reminder, please use the raised hand feature and remain muted until you're introduced.
Our first question for Coach Oliver comes from James Hill.
Good morning, Coach. How are you, sir?
I'm well, James. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Talk a little bit about, you call him Pee Wee, Mr. Richard, 3 touchdowns. He went to work. He did his job. But just talk a little bit about your quarterback.
I thought he could have played so much better. Look at his numbers, 20, 28, whatever he was. He had a solid performance. He's a great player, but, we expect a whole lot from him. And it was a couple of receivers, a couple of throws that he missed. And, we got to hit those. We had to hit those. And, we're expecting him to be perfect, unfortunately. And great young man, great player. And, we've got to get some stuff cleaned up. But, he's also a threat running the ball. And I thought he kept some drives going, after getting some first downs on the ground. So still pleased, but we still got some stuff. He has some stuff he has to clean up as well.
Coach, this rivalry game this weekend, when you look over at the Aggies and the Eagles, and it's going to be a beautiful thing, but just tell the people at home who don't really understand what this game is about. You've been a part of it for a long time, but tell people a little bit about this weekend, what they can expect to see.
A physical contest. I've been on both sides of the fence. I prefer being on this side a lot better. But these two schools have been battling, for years, and I think both schools respect each other, but we don't really care for each other. But it's going to be a hard-fought contest. I'm sure Coach Brown will have those guys, chomping at a bit, ready to get after us, and we're going to be doing the same.
Thank you, sir. Have a blessed week.
Thank you. You too.
Our next question comes from The Yard, HBCU Sports.
Good morning, Coach. This is Dwayne Nash from The Yard, HBCU Sports. How are you?
I'm well, Dwayne. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I don't know if you knew this, but you have a chance to sweep your in-state rivals for the first time in back-to-back seasons dating back to 1973-74. Now, everyone's been talking about familiarity and your familiarity with this matchup. I was wondering if you had any thoughts at all on the fact that the head coaching staff and the head coach and his staff, for the most part, doesn't have any connection to this rivalry whatsoever.
We don't worry about that here. I worry about my program in North Carolina Central. I'm sure that coach will have his guys fired up, and I'm sure some folks in Greensboro tell him and explain the importance of this game. But I can't worry about him and his preparation for his team. I just worry about trying to get our guys locked in and ready to play a great game on Saturday.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
There are no more questions for Coach Oliver.
Well, thanks for joining us this morning, Coach. And I wish you and your team best of luck this week. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
North Carolina Central will travel to Greensboro, North Carolina to take on North Carolina A&T. That game kicks off Saturday, September 9th at Aggie Stadium and will be broadcasted on Flow Football starting at 7 p.m. Our next interview is with Delaware State head coach Lee Hull. Good morning, Coach Hull.
Good morning.
How are you this morning, Coach?
I've been better, but we're just getting prepared for the next game.
Absolutely, Coach. Well, let's talk a little bit about last week. Tough loss last week against Bowie State. Talk about your team's performance in that matchup.
Well, first I want to commend Bowie State. They came in, they had a great game plan. They played hard, and that's a good football team. To even though it's a Division II program, they're a very good program, and they're going to do well this year. So, but for us, I thought our defense played really well. They played winning football. Gave the offense a couple short fields and a chance to score points. Offense just struggled a little bit early on for most of the game, and then kind of picked it up in the fourth quarter. Kind of got a rhythm, but it was a little too late. We special teams wise, we missed two field goals that we should have probably made. But all in all, we got a lot of work to do, and it's like I said, we're back to the drawing board, trying to figure things out.
Well, Coach, you went with a pair of quarterbacks under center this week. What were you able to see from the play of both Adams and Angelos?
Well, both of them, did a decent job. It's a new offense for them, so they're still learning. We've only been against our defense, Delaware State defense. Now going against a new defense, new looks, different things. They did okay, but we still got some work with them, just kind of processing our offense and our scheme and what we're trying to do. They both missed some throws. We did have some receivers open, and they missed some throws. So we just got to go back to basics with both of them. Prepare them the best we can to understand what we're trying to do in this offense.
Well, another tough battle ahead as this week you take on Army. Can you talk about what your outlook is for this game?
Army's going to be a challenge. They fly around. On defense, we were just watching them now. They fly around. They do a good job of getting to the ball. They'll hit you. So they're going to pose a challenge there that way. We're going to have to on offense meet their intensity. And all their energy. Offensively, it's a new scheme for them. They're more spread. They got away from the triple option stuff, but they're still centered around running the football. The quarterback run, is a big thing. So we're going to have to stop the run and just be sound on defense. And I know our defense will play tough and fly to the ball, and they're hitting. They like to hit. So it should be a good challenge for us.
Well, thanks, Coach Hull. That concludes my questions this morning. But if I can ask you to stay on the line to take any additional questions from the media. As a reminder, please use the raised hand feature and remain muted until you're introduced.
Our first question this morning for Coach Hull comes from James Hill.
Good morning, Coach. How are you, sir?
Good. How you doing, James?
Good. Coach, the fourth quarter, you were able to put 8 points up on the scoreboard at Alumni Stadium. Go back to the fourth quarter and give us a flavor of some positive takeaways when you dealt with Bowie State.
Yeah, we didn't kill ourselves. We beat ourselves, and I go back and again, Bowie was a good football team, but we beat ourselves. We self-destructed on offense. Just too many penalties, holding penalties. We fumbled the ball and they returned it for a touchdown. We didn't do that in the fourth quarter. We kind of settled down. Didn't have many penalties. We executed the play call. So I think that was really, really the big deal. It just took us a while to settle down and get comfortable in the system.
Coach, talk a little bit about your team gelling under your system, and you get into week 2. It's Army, but at the end of the day, it's about Delaware State University.
Yeah, you're right. It's about us, and it's about our preparation. How we're going to come to business on Tuesday when we practice. This week, just getting back to business. Bowie's Bowie. It's over with. So we have to move on now. We're looking forward to Army, getting prepared for them. I told the team, you make your biggest improvement, the biggest jump from game 1 to game 2. So that's why I want to see the improvement that we're going to make from game 1 to game 2.
Thank you, sir. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Mason Smith.
Good morning, Coach. I wanted to ask you specifically about Marquis Adams, a redshirt freshman. He showed a lot of positives, both passing and running the ball. This is essentially his first taste of college football. What did you see from him as he made his debut Saturday?
Yeah, it was his first taste of action. I like what he did. He did some good things, and then there's some things that he made mistakes as being the first time quarterback. But the one thing that he does give us is when things break down, he can take off and run. He's pretty athletic. He has to be a little bit more accurate. Throwing the football, he missed some throws that we had some wide open people on. But I do like him. The more he plays, the better he's going to get.
Absolutely. Now, I also want to ask you on the defensive side, Darren Cook, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. He was kind of the engine of that defense. What did you see from him along with the rest of that Hornet defensive front?
Yeah, one of our things where we wanted to stop the run, they had 27 yards rushing. So, and Darren is the big part of that. Reason why the front 7 did a great job, up front, plus our 2 linebackers, Charles Brown and Mario Goins did a great job for us. So I love the defense. We talk about pursuing the ball and relentless pursuit, and you can see that on film. Our pursuit drills and everything that we do in practice, you can see on film, and that's what they did. So I'm excited, and again, one of the reasons I took this job was because I knew we had a winning caliber defense, and they proved that again on Saturday. So we're going to ride them, and like I said, we just got to get the offense going a little bit, and hopefully that fourth quarter now propels them and they feel a little bit more comfortable that way.
Our next question is from Luke Williams.
Good morning, Coach Hall. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Hey, Coach, how would you contrast taking over Delaware State with when you took over at Morgan State? What's the difference? What's the difference you see in the league since the time when you were here first at Morgan State?
Yeah, when I took over Morgan State, they hadn't won in 37 years. Here, it's been since 2007. They won the championship. So there's a lot of similarities. I didn't get off to a great start there too. I think we were 0-4 when I first started there, and then my first year there, and then I think we went 4-2 and end up winning a couple more games at the end there, and shared the league title. So hopefully that's what can happen again here. So there's a lot of similarities, but I think the league is a lot better this year than it was in 14. Like I said before, the coaches, all championship coaches, all the coaches have won championships. So there's not going to be an easy game. Once we get into league play, we're just going to try to get better and better each week, and hopefully be ready to go for league play, because it's going to be tough. It's parity. You look at Morgan State, they beat Richmond, which is a big tough. Howard, almost pulled it off against Eastern Michigan. They came back late, storming, and almost did that. So I mean, you look at it, it's a lot of parity. Got a lot of good teams, a lot of great coaches.
If you were to contrast what you had to do at Morgan, you said there's similarities. What's the biggest job you think at Dell State?
Right now, I think the biggest job here is getting our kids to believe in themselves. Because right now, they haven't won. They're eager to win, but believing in them, believing in themselves, believing in their teammates. Coming together. As a team. We have enough players. It's now just trying to build that team and that bond. As a family and playing for each other.
Appreciate it, Coach. Good luck against Army.
Thank you.
Mason Smith, did you have another question?
Yes, sir. I have one more question for Coach Holt. I was wanted to ask him about, of course, the upcoming matchup with Army. We understand that Army is not, the pinnacle of college football, but it's definitely an FBS opponent. They've definitely had a lot of great wins and a lot of great history in their program. What would it mean for Delaware State, to go pull off a victory against Army, especially on national television against a FBS opponent?
It would mean a lot for this program and this community. The university, the Dover community. It would mean a lot. And also it would mean a lot for the MEAC. Same thing when Howard did and went down there and beat UNLV, I think it was. It would mean a lot, a great deal. So it's going to be a challenge. I mean, that obviously that's your goal, to go in and win every game. We're going to prepare, to go and win the game, and for 60 minutes, play as hard as we can and see what happens.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah.
There are no more questions for Coach Hall.
Thanks for joining us this morning, Coach Holt. Best of luck to you and the team this week, and safe travels.
Thank you.
Delaware State will travel to West Point, New York to take on Army. That game kicks off Saturday, September 9th at Michie Stadium, and will kick off at noon and broadcast on ESPN+. Our next interview is with Norfolk State head coach Dawson Odoms. Good morning, Coach Odoms.
Good morning.
How are you this morning, Coach?
Not very good.
Understandably so, Coach. Let's talk about the game. Last weekend's matchup against Virginia State ended in what some might call a wild finish. As head coach, how would you characterize the matchup?
Well, good football team, but we're a good football team and then play like a good football team, and I take full responsibility for it. We got to do a lot of things different. We got to do a lot of things better, and that's what this week is about. We didn't execute, and that's really what the whole offseason and that's what fall camp was about, is just executing. Then you go play your first game and you don't execute. It's plays there to be made. Didn't tackle well at all. We dropped passes. We just had poor execution. Special teams, we got a chance to pin them in there deep. We shank a punt 12 yards. Got a chance at the end of the game to kick a field goal to go to overtime. We don't even get a chance. We get a bad snap, but it actually wasn't a bad snap. It shot a rifle back there, so the holder wasn't able to bring it in. So just a lot of things happened, and you still had a chance to win the football game. And that's the biggest thing, is just knowing that when we watch the film and see it as a team, that we understand that if we got to execute. A lot of it is us, and we got to fix those things, and we got to fix them this week. And ain't no time to really dwell on that one. You got to go back to work, go back to the drawing board, and get back to it. A lot of it is not what we're doing. Some of it is that, and some of it is who doing it. So we got to really look at it and get guys in position that can help this football team win because we gave a football game away.
Well, Coach, it's often said by football coaches that you make your biggest adjustments from week 1 to week 2. As a matter of fact, you made those similar comments after that game. In addition to the execution, what adjustments will you specifically be looking at and highlighting in this week's practice heading into the upcoming game?
Well, we're gonna change the practice around a little bit, get some do some different things that we did the previous week. And really just challenge our team. Right now, this is the story that we wrote. So this is the one we got to read until we play again on Saturday, because that's the only way. Winning is the only thing that changed. So we know we gotta be a lot better, and if we want to taste winning, because we got another good football team we about to play on Saturday.
Well, you went right into my next question, Coach. You have another rivalry matchup ahead this week as you take on Hampton. What are you anticipating from this matchup?
Well, I'm anticipating our football team playing better. And that's the biggest challenge that we have for ourselves is let's get better, let's play better, and let's taste winning, because that's what the ultimate goal is. And they're a good bunch. They're a good bunch. And, you know, in 3 years, it's the first time where you see the hurt now. And I tell people, when you hurt as a football team, it's going to be a deciding moment in your season that's going to change it. And you don't know what that moment is as a coach. And when you're trying to build it, it's going to take a defining moment to rally the troops and begin to turn that thing. And we'll see as this season go, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to be at their place. And but I think we're going to see a football team that's going to play a lot better.
Well, thanks, Coach Odoms. That concludes all of my questions this morning. We will now take questions from the media. As a reminder, please use the raise hand feature and remain muted until you're introduced.
Our first question for Coach Odoms this morning is from James Hill.
Good morning, Coach. I hope you and everybody at NSU are well. Go back to the first quarter against Virginia State. You win that quarter 17-7. What are your takeaways from that part of the football game?
Well, I think in the first game, you ask yourself as a coach, is your football team ready to play? And we came out ready to play. I thought we executed in the first quarter, and then I just don't know what happened from then on, especially in that second quarter is really what things began to turn. And then second half, we played better defensively, but we missed some plays offensively. So it's like we just didn't play complementary football, and we didn't execute in all three phases consistently. And that's what the challenge will be this week.
Coach, the rivalry you're getting into this weekend began back on October 19th of 1963. Spartans 42, Hampton nothing. But just talk a little bit about this rivalry. There's two universities. There's some water in between you, and this is a beautiful thing. It's special, and a lot of people really wait for this every year.
Well, it's exciting. I think it's a fun atmosphere. It's going to be a really good football game, and they're a really good football team. I got a chance to watch them a little bit on film, and it's going to be exciting. But I do know the team that comes across the bridge from Norfolk will be a little bit more excited to play in this football game and go play a lot better.
Thank you, sir. Have a blessed week.
Our next question comes from Brian Smith.
Coach, good morning. To go from back-to-back games against one past rival in the conference to another, do you ever worry about the mental psyche of your team after what happened on Saturday going into a big game like this against Hampton?
Well, you got to get over it. 24 hours, you got to move on to the next one. You got to get ready to play. You got to accept the corrections. You got to accept the criticism, because my biggest thing is we dictate what people write and say about our football team and program. And we get 60 minutes every week to decide that story. And we got to deal with the story that's wrote right now to the next opportunity. So, but we can't be worried about what just happened. We got to get focused on what's next and come out and play like we're capable of playing. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think as a coach, you can live with the results when you play a certain way. And we did not play a certain way, so we can't live with those results. So we're looking forward to the next opportunity.
Our next question is from Mason Smith.
Good morning, Coach. Understandably, not the result that you wanted. The first question I have, honestly, is the fact that you talked about how young last year's team was. Obviously, this team's a year older. Have you seen anybody kind of step up from the players' perspective and saying, hey, we have to be better. We have to better execute, this week going forward and for the rest of the year?
Yeah, we got some leaders that's on the team that actually do a fantastic job. And every opportunity for them, as the head coach, I'm always looking for opportunities for them to be leaders. And this game give them a great opportunity to step in and be leaders and keeping the morale up, staying together. And we're making our corrections, but we just had a team meeting, and you can see these guys they're upset that they didn't play better. And now it's about fixing that this week and playing better and being a better complementary team to each other. So I think we're gonna fix what the issues are and just get this football team going in the right direction. We played hard. It wasn't because of their effort, but we just didn't execute. And there was a lot of plays there to be made. And when you don't make those plays, you allow football teams to hang around. You can lose on any Saturday. So we had our chance and we didn't take advantage of it. But we're gonna learn from it. I always tell them this game is a humbling experience now because you just have to learn and grow from it. If you do that, you got a chance to turn things around and make things better. As bad as this week was, now we got another chance this week. So you just got to stay together and just keep working, because at the end of the day, I think when we looked at the film, our players see that we did a lot of good things, but we didn't do them consistently, and that's what this week is all about. How can we be more consistent?
You kind of answered my second question there, especially talking about what players have seen on film. Obviously, as the coaching staff, we try to, prevent, certain things from happening. But when you have, things to reference on tape and you get to go in and film on Monday or Tuesday, does that help kind of express your point saying, hey, now here's a clear indication of this is why we do what we do or not do what we do?
Well, I think film really helps that. Film helps you it brings value to what you've been saying the whole time. And I think these guys see that. I think they have a good understanding of that. And they're going to be ready. There's a tough way to get ready. So we're going to keep chopping wood and carrying water.
Brian Smith.
Sorry about that. Coach, a follow-up to playing Hampton. You've gone against them in your tenure since being at Norfolk State. What is it about this rivalry that's just different from or similar to other experiences when it concerns rivalries from a coaching perspective?
Well, I think anytime you play in an in-state school, it creates a great atmosphere. It's great for our institution, great for our fan base, and another long-time rival. So it's always exciting. It's bragging rights. It's a brand of football that both teams are going to play, and you got to be focused. You got to be locked in, and you got to play with an unbelievable effort. I mean, this is going to be a battle. It's going to be a street fight, and we got to get ready for it.
Our last question for Coach Odoms comes from Lute Williams.
Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
316 yards on the ground, Virginia State racked up Saturday against you. Obviously, that was disappointing. It looks like Hampton did something close to that against Grambling. What's going to be the biggest thing in terms of trying to corral Hampton's running game?
Well, you got to tackle first and foremost. We got to be better at tackling. We got to be better at run fits. We just got to be better. But I think, a lot of we give up 80 on one play, so it's kind of easy to get to 316 when you're giving them in chunks. But second half, I was more pleased with our run fits. We did a much better job in the second half. So we got to carry on from that second half and just keep building because we did a lot of things. I think we found out a lot of things that we could do, and those young guys up front and those linebackers, we just got to play complementary to each other. We can't have two in the same gap. We got to spill and box when we're supposed to, and we got to get our fits. And I think that's something that we definitely go work on, is making sure that our run fits are better and just our discipline. And that's the biggest thing. It's just once you get in position, now you got to tackle. We missed a lot of tackles on Saturday, and that's really when you come out of camp, especially the way football is today, it's hard to tackle. It's hard to tackle during fall camp and lose the wrong guys, and you try to, keep everybody safe. And that first game is, you seeing it from everywhere. I mean, every first game, every team that's playing is gonna miss tackles, and even when the NFL starts, it's gonna be a lot of missed tackles in that first game. So it's just something that you got to deal with and get better with each and every week, because now the game speed of it and somebody else running is a lot different than your teammate running.
What about in the film you saw? I think Zealous and Butts both went over 100 yards for Hampton. What do you think about their abilities and what you have to do to stop them?
Well, we've seen them for 2 years. I mean, they've been there. They're gonna do what they do, and they gotta. This may be the first time in coaching that we're gonna face 2 back-to-back opponents that return all 5 offensive linemen. And, that's rare in today's football game. The team we just played had their 5 starting offensive linemen coming back, and this team, Hampton, have their 5 offensive linemen coming back. So when you're good up front, you go be pretty good on offense, and it's gonna be a trench battle. It's gonna be a battle in the trenches, and we better get ready for it because they're pretty good up front.
Good luck, Coach, on Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our questions for Coach Odoms this morning.
Thanks for joining us this morning, Coach Odoms. Best of luck to you and the team this week.
Thank you. Behold, the green and gold.
Thank you. Norfolk State will travel to Hampton, Virginia to take on Hampton. That game kicks off Saturday, September 9th at Armstrong Stadium and will be played at 6 p.m. at ESPN+. Our next interview is with South Carolina State head coach Buddy Pugh. Good morning, Coach Pugh.
Good morning, Patricia. How are you?
I'm doing well, Coach. How about yourself?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay. Well, Coach, last week you faced UNC Charlotte, and while you didn't get the victory, one of the storylines were about freshman play. You played Andre Washington at the quarterback, and you had running backs Fields and Howell on the offensive side. Can you talk about the performance of the game and these particular players?
You are correct. We did have some of our young folk get an opportunity. Our quarterback, our running backs, our wide receivers. We started Nigel Johnson and we started a freshman offensive lineman, Moses Umorin. So we on a youth movement right now, trying to kind of develop this team as we go about getting through this preseason ritual of going from place to place, playing these big hot shot schools and that kind of stuff. And it's fun. Our kids are, I think, enjoying the opportunity. And we go in and play Georgia Tech this weekend. We get that done, and then we get an open week. Then maybe we kind of regroup and get back to our level. So it's fun to see these guys kind of see these places and go in these nice venues and play these games.
Well, as we talk about the fun that the players are having, when you're playing these young players, offensive output has been the challenge in those first 2 games. What can you do in between games to have strengthened the unit and help mature these players?
Yeah, we've got to find some offense. You're exactly right. And anytime you playing the way we're playing offensively, that takes away from your defense also, which is really a big issue. The fact that you don't maintain the ball enough. And I think we did do that at least this time. We didn't necessarily score quite enough. We got in a couple of situations where you could see that we were better offensively, but at the same time, we didn't do good in the goal line short yardage game, and we didn't finish a couple of opportunities that we had to score. So right now, the big issue is trying to see if we can maybe do better, in that particular regard, and if we can get a couple of those scores in, then I think you see a different result. So I think that'd be one of the main issues right now, trying to see if we can find a way to finish these drives.
Well, Coach, looking ahead, you are back on the road again, and nevertheless, you have a pretty big task ahead of you as you take on FBS opponent Georgia Tech. What is the outlook of this matchup?
Well, it'll be a tough game for us. Georgia Tech's, I'm sure, foaming at the mouth a little bit. They had lost this past Friday evening to Louisville in one of the kickoff classics in Atlanta, and those guys are tremendously advantaged in this particular game in the way where, you know, they've got just a difference. They got some huge people everywhere. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see. Georgia Tech's been in the option style offense a couple of years back, and they're transitioning now to, you know, a more traditional style offense. And they've got a transfer guy in from Texas A&M that's a good runner, and he throws around pretty good too. And they've got people everywhere. So it'll be a fun opportunity for us to see if we can stop these cats, because they got a little bit of everything everywhere.
Well, thanks, Coach Pugh. That concludes all of my questions this morning. We will now take questions from the media. As a reminder, please use the raise hand feature and remain muted until you're introduced.
Our first question for Coach Pugh this morning comes from James Hill.
Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, James. How are you?
I'm blessed. Talk a little bit about, you have a youth movement, the development of these young guys. They can look at the stadium and see all the championships. They can listen to you. They know about the trophies and the Celebration Bowl and the history. And then they can look over to their teammates with Mr. Godbold and Mr. Fields and so on and so forth, Mr. Green. But just talk about this developmental part of these young guys.
Well, you know, that's a big part of it, especially at this level. We play a lot of young guys. Some schools go out and get a lot of transfers using the portal to, you know, to replenish that team. We're more of a high school outfit. And, you know, it's one of those kind of situations where we got a couple of injuries. So we're having to use, press a lot of guys into service a little bit earlier than sometimes we like to. And, you know, these situations are ones where, you know, you just got to do the next man up kind of routine. But I tell you what, we've got some pretty talented young folk, and, you know, they seem to be up to the challenge. And, you know, we're excited about what might possibly be down the road a piece for South Carolina State University. So I look forward to seeing just where we can have these guys too, where we're trying to improve them a little bit every day by the time we get to our conference's race.
Coach, you've had some big time success in Atlanta. I can remember you hoisting that Celebration Bowl, that national championship trophy. You've been there recently, but now you return this weekend with Tech. Just talk about going in there and playing Bulldogs football.
Well, and that's exactly what we like to do. We like to go in there and show the fact that we've improved to the point where we can compete with these guys. And, you know, I think you measure in several ways, but the first way is to hold up in the rushing game. And if we can do a good job of moving the football on them on the ground, as well as in the air, and then at the same time, keep them from blowing big holes in us in the offensive, in our defensive front, then, you know, then we get a win to a certain degree.
Thank you, sir. Have a blessed day, blessed holiday, and a blessed week.
Thank you, James.
Our next question comes from Mason Smith.
Good morning, Coach Reed. How you doing?
Good morning, Mason. How are you?
Pretty fair for a square. Now, I wanted to ask you specifically about the running backs, Casey Fields and Jawan Howell. Like we talked about it a little, you know, last week, but those two guys had another solid week again, especially for redshirt freshmen. Like, what do you say about those two guys?
Wait a minute. Now say it again. I missed your last piece.
Just what do you think about Jawan Howell and Casey Fields, the two redshirt freshman running backs that had another solid week?
Well, now you know what? They're not redshirts. Both those guys are out of high school. So we've actually got two other guys that are redshirt freshmen that we've been playing some too. Tyler Smith from Gaffney, South Carolina, and Josh Shaw from Charleston. Both those guys played some also Saturday. But Jawan and Casey are both excellent young running backs, and I think that they'll probably be, you know, some of the top running backs that we've had around here in a while. Both guys are, I guess, maybe built in a way that they look like big time running backs. You know, they're 6 foot taller and strong as all get. I look like they've been in the weight room all their lives, and they're both extremely intelligent young men, which is really, you know, a positive in a way when you're trying to get these guys ready to play this early in their career. So both guys have shown themselves to be fully capable of being able to compete at this level at a very early part of their careers. And, we're really fortunate to have both guys.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I want to ask about too is, of course, Corey Fields. Obviously, you went with Andre Washington last game. Can you give us a little insight of what's, the situation with the quarterback room and what are you planning to do going forward?
Yeah, Corey had a little bit of an issue with his foot coming out of the Jackson State game. He's had one of these plantar fasciitis deals, whatever the heck that is, where they think he got a little bit of an arch deal. And we think that he'll be closer to being able to play this weekend. We'd like to make sure that he's closer to 100%. And, at that point, that'll give us a chance to kind of get him through the rest of the season. We don't necessarily want to try to use him too soon and then maybe get him back on the shelf again. So we'll err on the side of caution, that way. We think that we are going to get Prometheus Franklin back in the process this week too, because he was the heir apparent coming out of last season until he had a ACL deal in the Howard game right toward the end of last year. And he looks like he's about ready to return to action. So we've got a good little number of guys, that are, in that position group that we'll be trying to figure out exactly or sort out exactly who ought to be where, in the coming weeks.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Luke Williams.
Hi, good morning, Coach. My question was about Corey, about Fields and his situation. So you're not sure whether he's going to play this week or not?
I'm not sure. And the day is just, Monday. We don't practice today. We'll start tomorrow. He'll probably attempt to do something maybe Wednesday, but it'll have to be real far along for us to be able to bring him back this soon.
Well, here's a question for you, Coach. What do you think about the schedule they have that you've now announced this is your last season? They didn't do you any favors with this schedule or what?
Well, we didn't quite plan it to be my last year. And, as we went on to the part where you actually had to play, we figured out, I think I'm going to go to the house. So it's kind of fall into place sometimes in a place that you might not necessarily feel ought to be, but at the same time, we got to dance with the girl that we brung it. we took her to the prom. We got to dance with her.
Good luck, Coach. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Our last question from Coach Pugh comes from Daryl Duvall.
Hey, Coach, this is Daryl Duvall. Hey, I just want to say I want to commend you for, we have this transfer portal, and I really, you look at college football this weekend, and you really look at how you are really trying to build the high school and undergraduate, because a lot of people are just going straight to the portal, and they're not really building these kids. And I mean, unfortunately, it's all about this transfer portal. It's all about taking kids who are playing and not trying to build the kids, and they need to be built. They need to be trained. And so that's one thing I really want to say. I know this is your last year, but I really want to say that there's not that many coaches like you who are actually trying to help these kids, as opposed to just taking transfer portal and trying to transfer kids. So
I appreciate you, Daryl. I don't know if you can teach this old dog that new trick, but I can tell you that we at a point now where I don't know if I'm right or wrong in this deal now. So at some point or other, it's a results-driven kind of venture. You got to figure it out. So we'll see.
And last thing, you look at JSU. Y'all played JSU last year. I'm from Jackson, so I'm a JSU player. But you look at how, and then they played Florida A&M, and they got messed up. But they took a whole bunch of transfer kids, and they're not, again, going back to developing these kids.
Yeah.
So
that
was it.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
All right.
That concludes our questions this morning for Coach Pugh.
Thanks for joining us this morning, Coach Pugh. Best of luck this week.
Thanks, guys.
And safe travels. South Carolina State will travel to Atlanta, Georgia to take on Georgia Tech. That game kicks off Saturday, September 9th at Bobby Dodd Stadium and will kick off at 1 p.m. and broadcast on the ACC network as well as ESPN+. Our next interview is with Morgan State head coach Damon Wilson. Good morning, Coach Wilson.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Coach. How about yourself?
Doing okay. Sitting here watching film.
Well, Coach, last week, nice victory to start the season with that 17-10 victory over nationally ranked Richmond. Recap the game for us.
That was a hard-fought game. Defensively, both teams really showed up to play ball. We were able to take advantage of some plays, special teams-wise, that ended up helping us. But all it was a hard-fought game. Our guys showed up to play. We had, showed up discipline. We only had 4 penalties throughout the course of the game. So, something to build upon, and it was a good win, definitely as a non-conference ranked opponent early in the year. So very good win for us.
Well, Coach, no doubt there should be a lot of pats on the backs and some smiles in the locker room after last week's victory. Nevertheless, you still have a season to play. As head coach, how do you keep the players, how do you build on that win, but keep the players focused after that win?
Yesterday we met, we talked about it, we pulled up some things that we still have to do to improve. And I told them we left. Saturday's game is over now. We're on to Akron. Yesterday we gave those guys pats on the back, as you said. And, we don't practice today, but tomorrow we hit the field. But our focus is on Akron. And we started that process yesterday afternoon.
Well, as you mentioned, this week you have that FBS opponent in Akron. The Zips are coming off of a 3-point loss to Temple, and they will be hungry to get their first win of the season. What is the outlook for this pending matchup?
They're a very good football team. They started off with 2 tough opponents. Those guys fly around and make a lot of plays defensively and offensively. They're pretty physical. They're going to formation you and shift and motion and all types of things to try to get you out of place on their offense. But we must play sound football, rely on our rules, rely on our coaching, and see where it puts us at the end of the ball game.
Well, thanks, Coach Wilson. That concludes my questions this morning. We will now take questions from the media. As a reminder, please use the raise hand feature and remain muted until you're introduced.
Our first question for Coach Wilson this morning comes from Mason Smith.
Good morning, Coach Wilson. Again, great win this past weekend. I kind of want to ask you about the win in terms of the recruiting front. Obviously, the DMV is kind of associated, with the schools that are in that area. What does it mean for Morgan State to pull off a win against a DMV opponent, and now prep talent from the DMV can see, hey, maybe Morgan State's the place to go?
It's very important. When you're playing against, like I said, a nationally ranked opponent. I think they came in a year top 20 in the country in the AFCA poll. It's major. It's a lot of times when you're recruiting, you're selling your university, you're selling your program, but you're also selling your schedule. And when you sell that schedule and you're able to have success against some of the national ranked opponents, it helps the recruits see that, hey, we're going to play football at a high level, but we're also get a good quality education around some men that genuinely care about you. So it's great to give guys an opportunity to attend Morgan State and see what Morgan State is all about on and off the football field.
And you told me about Jabril Johnson during media day, but you did not tell me about J.J. Davis. What were your impressions about him in his first game, this season?
I think he did a good job. We have probably 3 or 4 guys that we feel comfortable with running the ball. All of them bring something different to the table. However, all 4 of the guys are really intelligent football players, and that's something is our job to try to find out how we can get them involved. And to get awesome touches. There's only one football. We didn't run a lot of plays Saturday offensively, so that limited us some. However, JJ is going to be a special player in this offense. He's a guy that's fairly familiar with the conference, and he's a good football player. So we want to make sure we find ways to get him the ball along with the others.
Thank you.
Sure.
Our next question comes from James Hill.
Coach, congratulations on that victory. Just talk a little bit about winning that contest, and you've had some signature victories in the past in national championships. Where do you put this victory over Richmond?
It's big, but also it's in September. You want those big wins to come in November, December. That's when you're really talking about some big time football. But we're not going to belittle the fact that we beat a nationally ranked opponent. We're not going to belittle the fact that this was the first opening season win in the last 13 years at Morgan State. We're not going to belittle the fact that Richmond's on a 17-year win streak as far as their home openers. So that's a major accomplishment. However, we want those wins to come in late November and December. That's when you're really talking about championship football.
Coach, your running game, Mr. Baker, he can throw it around, but he can run. Then you look at Davis, who came over this season, Mr. Johnson, and you guys moved the ball. Just talk a little bit about the fourth quarter.
I mean, fourth quarter was a battle, man. You know, we came out, we received the ball after the opening kickoff in the second half, and you know, we were 3 and out. Defense came and held them, and it was a dogfight. You know, it was a dogfight. I think we did a pretty good job with situational football. Like I said, we had less penalties than they did first game of the season. That's always great. But the guys did what was needed to give us a chance to win. We got opportunity to a 4-minute drive, got opportunity to play about 2-minute defense on the field. So it was a lot of positives, a lot of teacher moments from the game that I think will carry over throughout the season.
Thank you, sir. Have a great week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Luke Williams.
Good morning, Coach Wilson. You know, you ain't smiled since you've been on here. Maybe you did all your smiling over the weekend. But tell me, did this game? Oh, that's a good smile. Tell me, did this game play out the way that you thought it would play out?
I know it's going to be a hard-fought game. They were really good on film last year. They had a new offensive coordinator come in this year. So we were anticipating them to, you know, pretty much do the same thing they did last year. But it did. You know, the guys really showed up to play, man. They played for one another. It was exciting to see them have fun on the football field. And then even after the game, it was a feeling of great job, but we got more work to do. So that was good. I heard our veterans yesterday at practice really get on the young guys. You know, they really, hey guys, that's over with. Let's talk about Akron. You know, we have a major challenge ahead of us. So I think they're starting to buy into, drink the Kool-Aid a little bit, if you will. And if they continue to do that, I think we have a chance to be a good football team.
Eric Hunter and Lawrence Richardson, both of them had double-digit tackles. I know that Richardson certainly was a key to your defense. Talk about both of them, and just talk about the play that Hunter made that really gave you the opportunity to score late.
Those guys are special. I mean, super duper special. Great young men. Richardson's in graduate school. Hunter's on track to graduate. Great teammates. You know, they practice hard. They do a great job with Coach Brawley Evans in the film room. They watch the extra film. They don't say a lot. They really lead by example type guys. And when the game is on the line, you want those guys on the field to make plays. They complement each other really well. Lawrence has a good knack for the ball, finding a football. And Lawrence is really physical. You know, he's really physical, and their preparation allows them to have some of the success they have on Saturdays for sure.
And about the play that Hunter made?
I mean, big time play. You know, it was a big time play. It was needed. He did exactly what he was coached to do, and we needed it. You know, it was a special play, and we needed it at that time to turn the tides in the game.
Now, playing against an Akron program, obviously an FBS program, you're stepping up, so to speak. What's going to be the biggest challenge in terms of what Akron provides?
Up front, you know, they're big guys, physical. One thing I'm telling my guys, I've told my guys already, a lot of times you have FCS players that have desire or think that they are FBS guys. This is when you get an opportunity to show your worth. You get an opportunity to show that, hey, you can play, quote unquote, with the FBS guys. But we're not going to focus on Akron. We want to focus on making sure we correct the mistakes that we made last week against Richmond and prepare to play, you know, like I said, a very good team and quite sure there's going to be some type of a hostile environment at night. You know, I think it might be their first home game, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be a great atmosphere and great opportunity for our program.
Thanks, Coach. Congratulations on the win. Good luck going forward.
You got it. I appreciate you.
Edward Lee.
Morning, Damon. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think Carson Baker left the game and then Dominic Anthony replaced him. What's Carson's availability for Saturday?
Oh, we knew we were playing both guys going into the game. That was predetermined. Nothing was wrong with Carson. We had made the decision. We were going to play both of those guys. Carson was going to take the start. He's going to be the starter this week, and we're probably going to play both guys again this week. It's something that we decided during camp as those guys were competing that, you know, both of them, neither one had just ran away with the starting job, if you will. So we want to give both of those guys opportunities to play and these non-conference opponents to see what gives us the best chance to win. And they complement each other really well. Dominique added some quarterback run game to our offense last week. And, we're excited to see, what they're going to do this week.
Was that performance from the defense what you anticipated?
I know we have a chance to be a very good defense. They play with a lot of passion. Once again, they play for each other. They played fast. And if they continue to play that, we will have a chance to be successful this year. But it was definitely a pretty good performance for all 4 quarters. You minus that first drive, they marched down the field probably 70 yards on us to score a touchdown. But, everything settled down and we got calm and made a couple, not necessarily adjustments, but just, getting that first game jitters out. And I think they settled down and played good solid football throughout the remainder of the game.
As well as the defense played, do you anticipate that the offense is going to need to be more productive on Saturday against Akron?
Oh, without a doubt, we have to protect the football. We had too many turnovers this past week, and typically when you had them in the turnovers, you don't win a ball game. But I want to say we turned the ball. We had them. We created 4 turnovers, so which gave us an opportunity to win. But offensively, we want to get better. It's a timing issue. We started 2 true freshmen up front. We don't make excuses. We just find a way to have some success, and that's what we're going to continue to do and give guys an opportunity to make plays and put them in the best position to be successful.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
There are no more questions for Coach Wilson.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this morning, Coach Wilson. Best of luck to you and the team.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Morgan State will travel to Akron, Ohio to take on Akron. That game kicks off Saturday, September 9th at Infocision Stadium. The game will be played at 6 p.m. on ESPN+. This concludes the MEAC Weekly Football Video Conference. Before we end the conference, we would like to thank all those that participated today in today's conference. The MEAC would like to thank its corporate partners for their continued support of the conference and its Elite 8 member institutions. As a reminder, the next video conference is Monday, September 11th at 10 a.m. For more information on MEAC football or other sponsored sports, visit meacsports.com and follow the MEAC on social media at MEAC Sports on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. Thank you for tuning in to this week's MEAC football video conference and have a great football week.